the guy with the breathing exercises, if you didn't realize. My name is Gautam Shenoy, and I am actually from Mumbai, India. I moved here about 17 years ago to pursue a master's degree in building science at USC. Fight on! Thank you. Welcome! Then I started learning about BIM and such, and it was an incredibly invigorating experience, to say the least. I've been doing VDC for quite some time now, and in the capacity of BIM VDC director for Stanford Card, I've had the opportunity to work on mixed use, multifamily residences, high rises, you name it. Before that, I've worked on LAX, the San Francisco 49ers Stadium with Jeanette right over there, which was a very, very good learning experience. So here I am before you to talk a little more about project delivery and such. So what is my conversation centered around, and then what's the group's conversation centered around? Oh, I almost forgot. I had to make a very important point. I'm really glad to be here and to be able to share the stage with two geniuses, Tony Stark and Bruce Wayne. I kid you not. I mean, look at Nathan. He has that fast talking. Yeah, Tony Stark. Let's get to the yeah. And then Bruce Wayne, quiet, calm, and like, I got this. You know what I mean? So the three of us, we're going to talk about the whole idea of project delivery from the different perspectives, because I'm from a design background, and so my presentation is all about project delivery, the whole realm, and I talked about a few things and touched about a few things yesterday when I did the VDC panel, but I'm going to go and do a little bit of a deeper dive today. Then talk about communication, crucial steps, and so forth. So, if you were in a panel yesterday that we hosted for VDC, you may have seen this chart. So it's actually very simple to read. On the leftmost side, we're talking about project delivery systems. So you go from top to bottom. These are the options you have when it comes to delivering a particular project. And then once you have that option in mind, you go to procurement. How do you get that project into your team's realm? And then finally, you bind that with a contract, okay? So you have to understand that the procurement and the contracting process are sometimes well suited for the lower two tiers. But at the same time, because of the traditional methodologies, they do work. I won't be going in great detail about procurement and contracts, but very quickly, low bid is when you have a certain amount that is negotiated, and the lowest bidder gets the project awarded. Select direct sources when you have a person or the client knows a particular company that they worked with and they want to work with them again. Negotiated is when you negotiate. QBS, which is qualification-based selection, is where what you do is you put out what is called as an RFQ, request for qualification. So us, GCs, architects, engineers, put together a qualification sheet and we apply. Out of that, 3 to 5 are selected, and then from that comes the RFP. And once the RFP is out there, it's evaluated, and what happens? The project gets awarded. All right? And then finally you have the third tier, which is the contract, so I'm not going to go into that. So instead of going into this first and second column, let's go and talk about project delivery. All right. Before that, I usually show this map. I showed this yesterday as well. When you do your project kickoff, have an idea of how you're going to leverage your PDF value for all the different stages. Have an understanding of that. Discuss it with your partners and make sure that you're very clear about that. All right? Cool? So, project delivery. The first and the most traditional system is design, bid, build. Everybody familiar with it? Let's do a quick survey. GCs? Excellent. Architects? Engineers? And owners? All right, great. We have a very nice spread of people from different backgrounds. So in the design, bid, build world, what happens is, as you can see, on the charts that I have on my slides, on the left-hand side, you'll see a timeline or the progression of your project phases, right? And on the right is a sort of a tiering system, and that allows you, if you see, the flow of relationships contractually as well as information-wise between the different team players. So when you look at the traditional way, design, bid, build, the owner becomes the program manager, of course the financer, and sort of the stakeholder in the whole project. What that does is there is a clear difference in communication between the designer and the GC. Do you see that? Because a lot of times people don't see eye to eye, and you go running back to the owner and say, that person's not working with me, or this person or this particular body's not working with me. So that approach is what sometimes creates a lack of communication. Remember what Sasha said, we're going to talk about the hard stuff. Okay? So we have to understand that at the end of the day, all of us are what? On the same team. Correct? Are we? Yes, we are eventually. Not in this.
Not in this contract.
Not in this. I'm saying the eventual.
Oh yeah, eventually. Yeah.
Told you, Tony Stark, man. Yeah. All right. So that's example. That's delivery system number 1. If I'm going too fast, please blink thrice. I have a tendency to talk fast. It's because the hat, because I'm a cowboy and an Indian. So, it works. I used to say do it this way. Multi-prime. Multi-prime, on the other hand, is a little different. What happens in a multi-prime environment is there are multiple contracts, prime agreements, between the owner and all the different players. So, in the traditional sense, an architect would hire an engineer for mechanical, structural, electrical, plumbing, and so forth. But in a multi-prime environment, who owns? Who has the contract? The owner. Again, there's a difference of communication or flow of communication and formats and what have you in that environment. So that's the big difference. Multi-prime is very good for fast-track projects, but it's not really integrated, so to speak. The next example is CM at risk. Everybody familiar with this? If you are in the pre-construction world or the pre-con services world, this is something that you will see from time to time. If, for instance, you're working on an airport, there are several phases you want to deal with. CM at risk seems to work better. But again, it's not integrated. It's an assisted type of delivery method. Okay? So if you look at the chart, do the charts on the right make sense to you, the tiering system? It's pretty clear, right? There's a divide or a difference of sorts, and that's how the delivery changes its course, so to speak. Okay? Now, when it comes to design build, by the way, where did I learn of all these systems? I basically took a course with the DBIA, and a lot of these are basically from their course that I learned. Because DBIA, Design Build Institute of America, and by any means, I'm not trying to promote that, but it seems to be the most conducive and integrated approach to project delivery. In my experience, like I said, I work for Steinberg Hart. We do a lot of diverse projects, but as I see more and more, I'm seeing a trend where there are more and more design build projects that I'm working on with my team members. And we meet ahead of time, whether it's for the RFP or for a pool planning meeting. I see the contractor sitting there, I see the subs sitting there, I see my consultants, or our team members sitting there, and we're all talking together. We're all having the same conversation that needs to be had way ahead of the curve. Cool? So that's sort of the approach we need to take. So Nathan, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, and I guess the question would be, in your experience in the real world on design build, do you actually have all three of those there before your procurement, before your contract, before your programming? Or is it actually more so at your design development phase that they're brought in?
It's completely conditional. It's completely conditional.
It depends,
right? College, there's a student, a dining hall that I'm working on, and a student housing project that I'm working on. On the housing project, at 100% SDs, we're hitting what? A GMP. So that requires everybody to be at the spot. You know what a GMP is, right, everybody? A value engineered set of drawings of sorts, right? So that's why I say it varies from streamline to streamline. You guys with me so far? Am I talking too fast? Is my hat okay? All right. So that's that. All right. Look at that smile, man. Okay, the next big one, lean and integrated project delivery. They have different variations, and lean, I'm going to leave to the expert over there, because I don't look lean anyways. And Nathan's got a whole lot of good things to talk about. Oh, my mic fell off?
Yep.
All right, good times. See, this is what happens when you get 2 and 2s for a project presentation. All right, so in an integrated project delivery environment, you have all the players sitting together right off the bat. All right, all the decisions are made together, and it's called integrated. So if you look at not just the org chart, but the mentality, the best way to explain it is in design build and integrated project delivery, the mentality shifts from what? Assisted to integrated. Damn, that's cool. Right? From assisted to integrated. All right, let me check my notes here very quickly. Yeah, that's what it is. So, what's going on, man? I don't want to
Just making sure.
Yeah, just making sure that I've learned my next point.
I concur.
Thank you. So, to that effect, these two guys, to that effect, what I would encourage all of you to do, immaterial of what realm you come from, whether you're a designer, a contractor, an engineer, whatever realm you come from, ask the right questions right off the bat. Compel your project managers to answer you with these questions. What kind of a scope are you dealing with? where is the communication being set up? So when you talk about all these different delivery systems, why did we go into that? Because that allows you to understand where your teams stand, correct? That makes sense, right? Or no? It's where your teams stand and where you have to establish that line of communication right off the bat. So that's the whole premise of what I showed you just now. So asking those questions will help you understand where your communication stands and how you can collaborate and coordinate. File type systems, coordination procedures are all a part and parcel of what? The first line of communication. Sasha, how am I doing on time?
You're good. You're okay.
Okay, great, thank you. So within the Steinberg Hart organization, we have a quality management system where we use review and studio in every possible realm, internally, externally, and so forth. So get creative with that whole idea. A couple of days ago, I was talking to our accounting department, and they have all these hundreds of invoices that they want to send to the PMs and get sign-offs on that. So they're using Studio now. So if they want to separate out the invoices and name them, they just go and do a page region of the invoice number, convert that into a separate PDF, and send out. So it's completely up to you as to how you leverage the platforms that we're talking about right now. But at the end of the day, you need to communicate with your teams and your teams internally and externally, and make sure that that collaboration process and the scheme and the flow for it is established way ahead of time. Cool? So if you take a moment to understand the project delivery method that you're involved in for a particular project, it'll help you make a lot of key decisions on how to communicate, collaborate, and deliver the project. And of course, the McNeamy curve is important. I guess everybody's seen this, right? And David, thanks for that. All right, Muda, which is the Japanese word for lean. And I usually like to talk about federated models because that's sort of the environment that I like to work in, even though I'm from a design background. A lot of the federated models come from the contracting and the construction world because you have the most amount of information at the tail end with your subs related documents, and that's where you go. And that's what that map is. And in the same light, I talked about 3D PDFs yesterday, so that's the slide that basically tells you the same thing. And that's me. So that's my part of the presentation.